elites rejected, governors corrected, gangsters, thugs, and smugglers are thoroughly respected. The money gets divided, the women get excited. Now I'm broke and it's no joke, it's hard as hell to fight it, don't buy it! Freeze! Rock! Freeze! Rock! Freeze! Rock! Freeze! Rock! Rock! Blow! Get higher, baby. Get higher, girl. Get higher, baby. Come on!
Well, I'd also like to thank you for allowing us into your homes for this 14th episode of Season 2 of Esoteric Science Roundtable. I'd like to thank my special guest, my very, very special guest, Jeff Contreras, for taking the time and the opportunity to come out on this cold, cold night to help me out with giving an Orgone update and to talk about a few of the things that have been going down lately with that, and to kind of give some future plans as to what the upcoming year will hopefully hold for us as far as what we're going to try to accomplish in that respect. Again, I'd like to thank Jeff Contreras from the fine show Therefore I Am for coming down to take the time to help me out here.
Hey, when is that show on?
Therefore I Am, that fine show is on every Tuesday at 10 on Channel 10, live. Don't miss it, unless there's a fifth week or some strange thing goes on where they're playing a tape show. But otherwise, they're going to be live. And so please take the time and opportunity to view that fine show. Enlighten yourself. Okay, as far as starting here with an Orgone update, and folks that took the time to view Therefore I Am this past Tuesday saw that you did your show on chemtrails,
right,
and you kind of laid out an introduction to a lot of what we're going to flesh out today. And honestly, when I first saw you were doing the chemtrails, I'm like, man, you booger, you're going to talk about everything I want to talk about. What are we going to talk about? But anyway, it worked out well. You got all the nuts and bolts basic stuff out of the way. And I really don't want to emphasize so much on for the people that don't know what chemtrails are, you know, you're out of luck on this one. So
just look it up in the internet. It's very easy. I mean, there's so much information, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, or you're just trying to find out more about it. That's the easiest way to do things these days.
Right, and chemtrails, C-H-E-M-T-R-A-I-L-S. Chemtrails, as opposed to contrails.
Well, even if you type in contrails, you will get a lot of chemtrail websites.
Good point, good point. So you'll be able to find it whether you want to or not. Okay, and then just to make note of the fact that a lot of people have noticed that about a week ago there was some really bad, heavy chemtrail activity going on, and they were laying thick, more so than I myself had seen in a really, really long time, and it was very disconcerting and very concerning to see it that thick and in that effect, because I kind of felt like we had had a pretty good grasp on it and kind of put it into some restraints to a certain degree, and to see it cropping up in that respect again like they had done previously, again, I was a little disconcerted by that. But then I just said, well, we just need to refocus and redirect our energies, and then to change the scenario from how this is starting to come back again to how it was when we kind of, again, had somewhat of a lid on it. And so that being the case, again, a lot of people noticed it. And so we spoke, I guess, last Wednesday at our metaphysical meeting a bit about this briefly, just to say, hey, these chemtrails are getting bad again. We need to refocus, reemphasize our efforts to minimize or diminish these chemtrails.
Yeah, and just before we get too far away from this, it was so heavy and so intense, the chemtrail activity about 10 days ago or so.
Right.
And then think about this for a second. After the days and days of intense chemtrail activity, here we are. It was January at the time. Well, I guess it still is January now. It was just right near the beginning of January, just barely. And it was 70 degrees outside. Now, granted, it's Texas and it's generally a little warmer, the winters are, but not 70 degrees in January. Yet, I personally believe that this was an effect from the intense days of chemtrailing that led up to this unnormal weather activity.
And certainly you can say, oh, it's just Texas weather, wait a minute and it'll change, and that's certainly, the way that people feel about that. But again, sitting an 82-degree record out of the blue the way that we did the other day is a little out of the norm, and you can kind of look towards these things. Once you understand a bit more of how these programs work, you can kind of see some of the trends that take place, and that's what we're trying to stay on top of so that we can inform the public more so, and then we can get the public on board with this endeavor that we're trying to work with to, again, diminish and minimize as much as possible the negative effects of the chemtrails. Are we going to be able to make them obsolete entirely? Not likely, but we can, again, negate or diminish to a certain degree some of the ill effects that are caused by this spraying that a lot of people still to this day are not aware of. I was talking to my sister the other day, and her little 4-year-old daughter was looking up in the sky and was like, "Mommy, look, there's an X in the sky," you know, and things that are just the average person is oblivious to and doesn't even not aware of whatsoever, or just chooses to ignore. A little child can look up and see there's an X in the sky, and why is that? You know, that should be a question of and a point of concern for people, I would really think. You know,
and quite frankly, just seeing an X, you know, that's an easy day, a light day. I mean, when they're hitting us hard and heavy, you can see a grid, a true-to-life grid, and sometimes up to 7 planes at once laying these chemtrails.
Yeah, at the very least, it's like a tic-tac-toe situation, you know, but definitely you see them making these. And that's not, again, like you emphasized on your show on Tuesday, this is not your normal flying stuff. This is definitely these patterns, these flights that they're choosing to operate with are not within the norm. These are very unorthodox flight patterns and very unorthodox procedures that they're maneuvering in order to create these patterns. So there has to be a purpose for it. This is not just a random crossing of flight paths. This is very purposeful.
That, you got to keep this in mind, Corey. They do not let planes fly over urban areas. You know what I mean? If a plane was going from Houston to Phoenix, and Austin is in the way, it's not going to fly over Austin, because what if there was an accident? What if something happened and the plane came down? Well, then it would be right in the line of hitting the city.
Right.
So they make sure that commercial airliners fly around urban areas, not directly over them, hundreds of times a day in order to create normal contrails. It doesn't happen that way.
That's a very good point to emphasize as well. And so that, I think that in itself begs the question, you know, what's going on here? We have to look at these things in a rational way. And so I also want to give props also to Bowie Ibarra, El Technico, because he is the person that initially turned you on to the whole chembuster concept and kind of, you know, got you on this trek.
Bowie Ibarra, who ran for state comptroller, he's a libertarian in the Libertarian Party, he emailed me in February of 2002 about a chembuster. He didn't know what it was, he had no idea what it did, but he knew that it had to do with Orgone, and he knew that I was interested in Orgone, and so he forwarded me that post. And to be quite honest with you, Corey, I read the email and I thought, this is bullshit. I mean, I don't believe this. I mean, I knew Orgone. I knew about it from before. I had studied it. I've done a few experiments with it. But I just didn't really believe that this thing could do what they were saying that it could do. And I just kind of like, I put it on my desktop, and I didn't throw it away, though. And over the next month or two, maybe 6 weeks, between the time that I got that email to the time I actually did something about it, those weeks, it was so intense, the chemtrails, that I just couldn't take it anymore. I was praying and praying and praying, going, God, just give me a small bone here, you know, help me out. If there's anything that I can do to help with the chemtrails, then show me and I will do it. And for some strange reason, I read that email again and it started to make a little bit more sense to me, and I thought, well, you know what? It's so cheap to do, I might as well do it.
That's cool. I'm glad you finally did, you know, make that leap. And to me, I have to say, it's very interesting too, because I've shown the chembuster that I have in my home or outside of my home to individuals, and they can't really grasp it. You know, they can't understand how this thing, and especially you understanding the concept of Orgone. If you had a difficulty grasping it, then certainly the stretch for our average Joe Blow would be even a bit more for them to understand what this thing is.
Especially when you look at it, because I mean, for all practical purposes, it's just a bucket with copper pipes sticking out.
Yeah, it looks pretty unassuming if you just look at it initially. Although it does throw out its own vibe that you can be cognizant of.
Oh,
so that's something to be aware of as well.
If you know sensitive people and you bring them around there, they'll tell you. They'll say, "Hey, well, something's going on around here."
There's a little high vibration going on here, definitely. And so if people could just grasp the concept of a magnet, I think that would help them get a bit of a grip on it to a certain degree. Here is a magnet. It's contained within a magnet is a magnetic field. It generates a field. So there are no mechanical or electronic parts within the magnet, but yet again it generates a positive and negative that we know is a magnetic field. Just as the Earth generates a magnetic field, and just as we generate magnetic fields, so too this chembuster can generate in that same sense, and it can move and conduct and alter this energy by virtue of changing negative to positive, and as you spoke of on the Tuesday show, creating an equilibrium.
Right, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about the chembusters. They think if you set it out, that it will just work and work and work until it floods the area with too much positive energy.
Over Orgone.
And yeah, exactly, over Orgone. And a lot of people don't understand that you can have too much of a good thing. If there was too much positive energy and not enough negative energy, we would start to blow fuses. It's just not meant to be that way. There's supposed to be a balance, an equilibrium of about 50-50, and that helps regulate the flow of life and death.
And to flesh out that point a bit more, there is the individual and a couple of other individuals probably that have not made contact with you, James DeMaio in particular, that are not big proponents and big fans of the fact that we keep the chembusters in operation and extended and outside, in effect, basically, during all these times. And I would have to really state my case that since they are doing the heavy chembuster activity, they're doing the heavy HAARP activity, they're altering and changing their methods, and they're altering and changing our environment, that we have every right to this psychic self-defense in order to defend ourselves from this onslaught, and that we need to do what we can do. And if there were adverse and negative effects, I think they would have demonstrated themselves more so. And I'm going to go into talk some more in a second here as to what actually did pan out as a result of from last March until currently, and how we can emphasize that more so. But I think if there would have been problems, we would have seen them more so already.
And I'll even go one further than that, Corey. Not only do I think that we have the right to do this, I think we have the responsibility
Good point.
to
I would
do
agree.
this.
I would agree.
I mean, if somebody comes along and shows you a way of doing things that will help things in general, and you don't do nothing about it, I mean, you ignore that information, well, you're just as evil as all the people that we talk about on the more patriotic or the more conspiracy-minded shows, you know what I mean, of those that are in charge. You're just as bad as those people if you don't do anything.
I think in some cases worse too, because if you're aware and you don't take that responsibility, then that's even worse to me, honestly. But nonetheless, I think that we can again use this chembuster program that you started, and hopefully people saw your show Tuesday so they can have a bit of a tie-in to this and understand that again this contraption with this bucket and this resin and these double-sided quartz terminals and all of this spiral-shaped copper filings and with the 6-foot copper tubing extending out of this, that ultimately this can again generate and create. And I am of the firm belief and contention, because of my own experimentation and understanding, that the chembusters do indeed amplify thought, and they will take the already existing vibe of a neighborhood or what have you, and they will emphasize either the positive or the negative. If you're more emotionally predisposed, then emotional flux and turmoil may ensue, depending. I want to quickly mention this as well. This is a picture from the Austin Statesman from the Saturday, January 18th, 2003 paper, and if you read the little caption at the bottom, they go through great pains to make this point. And it says, as the Goddess of Liberty watches from atop the state capitol on Friday afternoon, a jet's water vapor contrails embellish a bright blue sky. Then it says, the sun hasn't been able to conquer the cold in the past couple of days, but the forecasters say a slight warm-up is in store. And notice how they have to really, really emphasize in these words here, a jet's water vapor contrails, as if you didn't know, as if, it's just ridiculous, and it's absurd that they have to go through this much trouble and these great pains to color, and throw their spin on this picture.
Well, think about it, Corey. They have to do something because more and more people are noticing this. It's very, very obvious to anyone with even the slightest bit of common sense that this is not normal or natural contrail activity. I mean, the majority of jets out there have 4 engines, yet you only see 2 streams of whatever you want to call it, chemtrails
Right.
coming
That's
from a
an
plane.
interesting
Every now and then, like on the tape I have, I think after about the 15th minute or so, I actually have footage from Vegas of a plane that's actually leaving 4 huge
And you don't traditionally see
chemtrails.
that.
No, and you don't really see that. But you have to remember that most planes have 4 engines, yet you only see 2, and then the 2 lines generally are so close together they'll form one line almost immediately.
Yes, that is very true too. That's very true too. And so I want to emphasize one thing, that since this last Wednesday, when we got of the minds to readdress this issue and reemphasize this in the public's understanding of the situation, and to again readdress it publicly, that from that day the chemtrail activity really diminished significantly, and we didn't have the blow-up puffy trails and all of the grids and all of the tic-tac-toe as we had seen previously. And again, once we get of the mind to do this and to consciously change what's going on, we can affect these things. And I'm of the firm belief, and that's what I want to emphasize today. Initially, last March, when you got the Chembuster program up and running, you sent out an email and you said, and you spoke on your show as well, this is going to be the end of drought activity. We're going to end drought, and there won't be any more drought in the Central Texas area. Now, if people really want to think about this, and I don't know how much credit they're going to throw the way of Bowie Ibarra, Jeff Contreras, myself, anybody else that was even remotely affiliated with this project, if you want to call it that, how much credit you want to give, because the rain during this past year, from that March period on through December, and even now, as of today, we're 9/100ths of an inch above on the plus column for the Camp Mabry area.
I think we spent 3 days, the first 3 days of the new year we were under, and it might have extended out into, I think, maybe even 4 or 5, but then after that we caught up.
And then they do emphasize that on the news. You see them emphasizing that we'll be under like 100th of an inch or something like that. But then you look at the totality, well, the lake level is full.
Right.
Travis is 13 feet above its historical normal for this time of year. Buchanan is 9 feet above its normal for this time of year. And the lake levels had been above their historical normal since March all the way through. And another thing, too.
And you got to remember, they're letting out a lot more water.
We'll get into that in a second. They certainly are letting out a lot of water. Town Lake lets out water. This water is going somewhere, but the lake levels are still staying very high, even in spite of them releasing a tremendous amount of water. But also, in spite of all that stuff, okay, we also emphasized the climatological aspects of it as well, and we did not want another 112-degree record day heat in Austin. So we said consciously, we don't want 100-degree temperatures. We want to keep this temperature mild for the betterment
how
of
did
everybody.
it work? We got to August before we had a 100-degree day.
And I think even then, I don't know that
what was it, twice? 2 100-degree days last year, maybe 3?
Some places don't even classify that there were any.
Wow.
Depending on what area you're in, some places didn't even categorize.
Think about that for a
100 degree at
moment,
all.
folks. Think how far back in memory that you have to go before you can have a year that didn't have a 100-degree day. And you know, around Austin, like in San Antonio, they had plenty of 100-degree days. In Waco, they had plenty 100-degree days. But here in Austin, where we have probably more chembusters than in any urban area nationwide. I know a lot of people around the nation are building chembusters, but it's only one person in the area. Here in Austin, because we have, access, and because we have people that are more willing to actually do something than just sit around and think or wish that things would change. So we have 8 to 10 chembusters around here, and not only did we that drought hasn't ended, but there has been no drought since then. The rain has been plentiful. The temperature has been moderate. But the storms, the thunderstorm activity in the city proper has not been as severe as it has been around the area.
Right. Tornadic activity in Manor, tornadic activity here and there. But in Austin proper, we have really been spared from any really, the tornadic and the hail type. I mean, certainly in South Austin, we've got a little hail here and there, that kind of thing. But ultimately, the metro area has been unscathed largely. And again, we're going to have to factor in the chembuster activity that, this is staving off some of this greater problem for us, and we can neutralize some of this funkiness. Now, also, as far as the chemtrails themselves, the composition of the chemtrails and how can the chembuster help or alter that condition. Now, when we consider the makeup of the chemtrails, we can look at government documents to see that there are programs that are set up to spray this aluminum oxide, this little aluminum particles, out into our atmosphere for various reasons. They'll give varying reasons for the programs,
right.
But there's documentation that can be shown that talks about these programs. Then also the tests that have been done to show the biological composition as well, the little leftover biological mass and all the half cells and all these things that can all too easily invade our immune system and bond with us and alter us and give us a disease and illness. And so we can't necessarily 100% negate the funk, but we can minimize it. And with practical health, hygiene and health, a lot of the things that Jeff has been talking about over the past couple of months as far as the health aspects, getting those things together and getting your health and well-being together, and in addition with getting your head together, which is the things I'm more so try to emphasize as far as the psychological or the mental aspects of getting your game together.
Oh, well, definitely. I mean, just think about how much an effect your environment has on your moods. You know what I mean? In the years gone by before this, when it was just 100 degrees for a month or two straight, and it was oppressive. You walk outside and you feel like the master has put the chains on you as soon as you walk outside, and you stay like that until you can get into some air condition. And so what do? You stay inside all the time. You don't go outside anymore. You stay out of the sun, which everybody needs the sun. Don't believe that crap. You can't get vitamin D from milk. You have to go out into the sun to get vitamin D. But when the environment is nice and pleasant, your mood is nice and pleasant. I mean, it's a ripple effect that can ripple out.
Right, good point.
Throughout the ends of the universe.
And that's what I want to emphasize as well, too, as far as the community effort, as far as getting our heads together on this whole thing. Now, really, largely, I think you and I discussed this. I don't know how much more inclusive we were as far as a little planning activity that I discussed, as far as, what we wanted to see for the climatological, the low temperatures and all that stuff. But I really feel like this year they're going to try to hammer us more so, and that I would like to bring other people on board with this experiment for this year's round of Chembuster activity, as far as what we can do to prevent and diminish the funk that's coming our way, because things are changing and they're going to try to hammer us, I really feel. So rather than just trying to keep it to a small number of people, I want to expand this more so and ask those people out there that I know are fully capable of adding their energy to this as well, so that they can get their thoughts together. And I would ask that when you see that plane spewing out that chemtrail, that you just immediately imagine and know that it's going to diminish, it's going to dissipate immediately. And that's what's been happening. Like today when I walked out to greet a plane specifically, and I know that may sound strange, but I knew that I would see a chemtrail plane. I walked out my back door, there it was at high noon, and it was spitting out its chemtrail, but as soon as it was coming out, it was diminishing. And I was seeing that almost instantaneously. And you might say, oh, well, then that was a contrail, it wasn't a chemtrail. No, it was a chemtrail, and I think I've seen enough to know, and just please, take my word that yes, it was a chemtrail. But again, if we can think this way, if we can think to diminish these effects, we can have a great and tremendous, again, a ripple effect that'll really allow us to have, again, optimum temperature, plenty of water, and these nice blue skies with these beautiful puffy clouds that you may remember when you were a child laying back on your back on the grass with a blade of grass between your teeth and saying, oh, it looks like an elephant, or it looks like this, or it looks like that.
Exactly.
That you might remember from your youthful days. That it seems like those clouds were gone for a while, and they were gone for a while, and the condition of the atmosphere around here was sickly. And the color of the sky was bad, and then when they would shock us with the HAARP, the electromagnetic energy and the various energies that they would shock the atmosphere with, it would even further degrade, and then that's going to get our moods too. And
I tell you what, people, for those of you out there who are just heard HAARP here for the first time, or maybe have heard it a couple times and don't know what it is, look it up and do some research on exactly what HAARP is. And that's HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. It stands for the High Altitude Auroral Research Project. It's in Alaska, and it's a scientific research center that they built supposedly to study the aurora borealis. And they actually send intense electromagnetic energy into the upper reaches of the atmosphere and direct that energy anywhere they want to around the globe. It's fascinating stuff, but it's also scary mad scientist stuff. The chemtrails are just a small part of what they're doing to manipulate not only the people, but especially the weather.
Also, the the little aluminum oxide particles make great conductivity as far as, again, shocking with this electromagnetic energy of these various fields that they create and they shock our atmosphere. This is very conducive and conductive with this aluminum and all the stuff that they put in these chemtrails to allow this effect to pan itself out and to create either weather manipulation, various, again, a research project, but it's more than research. I mean, it's in full effect because they're manipulating. And also, the Pine Gap facility in Australia is rumored to be the sister or the complementary for the lower hemisphere that acts in conjunction with that HAARP energy. And so you've got, and even when you read mainstream articles from a number of years ago when Russia is...
the woodpeckers.
Well, they were going to create a rainstorm for Indonesia a number of years ago, and that was mainstream, that they were, they're admitting that they have this weather manipulation,
what you have to do, folks, is let go of your old paradigms that says, oh, to manipulate weather, we have to seed the clouds. Cloud seeding manipulates weather. No. Cloud seeding is prehistoric technology. They don't even use that anymore. They might bring it out a little bit every now and then when there's a real drought in order to help, alleviate people's concerns. But they don't do it with chemicals. It's all electronic weather manipulation. They don't need chemistry. They have electronics. And electromagnetic energy is the energy that makes the universe go. And as humans, we're finally getting to the point where we understand and we're putting this to our use. The only thing is that these technologies are not hitting the mainstream as of yet.
Well, they're hitting us, but that's not in the way we'd like. They're definitely hitting us. More so maybe than like we'd like. But anyway, another thing too, Bexar County, it got record rainfall. That is the main seat of the Edwards Aquifer. The Edwards Aquifer is where we get a lot of our water, and this whole area gets a lot of its water.
Right.
Now, some of you may be familiar with the fact that Kyle got these $1 million fines, the city of Kyle, and a lot of these other newly incorporated areas and what have you that are having to get water on board. They're sucking this water up like it's going out of style, and for getting their yards together and all this kind of stuff. And so they're really hitting up on the aquifer, and they're being fined big fees for taking this water. Now, with all this new growth here, it's a good thing, quite frankly, that the activity has happened the way that it has, that the aquifer is so full that we actually have this water that we can provide for this new influx of people, and that it's not a real burden. And they're not talking about rationing water like last year, for instance. They didn't try to talk about rationing water for doing the lawn stuff one or two times.
And every time I saw those commercials, the tuna Christmas dudes, that made me want to puke, man. And because those commercials did air. I think maybe in August or September, water rationing, and they were gonna,
But that's such a joke.
It was a horrible joke because there was plenty of moisture last year.
Exactly.
Plenty of moisture.
Exactly, and that's just a manipulation process. It's just to get you used to that. You can use water only when we say so, and if we don't say it's right, then you can't have it, even though there's plenty of water.
Folks, water is the most abundant resource on this planet. There is more water than everything. And yeah, I know when you pseudo-intellectuals, this is where y'all like to stand up and say, oh, but that water is not potable. We could never use all that water. It's like, whatever. If we needed it, we would have some scientists, we'd stick them in a room and say, you don't come out until you show us how we can use this water, and they'll do it in 15 minutes.
And there are most assuredly ways that you can draw water from the atmosphere. The science is there, it's just not widely recognized. So, come time that we need water, and also just transferring seawater into drinkable water too. I mean, there are ways that we can get around those things.
Oh, so without a doubt.
Water is replenishable, and drink all you want, we'll make more.
Exactly, and not only that, I mean, look at the conditioning they've been doing to you in the past few years to make you think how scarce water is. What do you pay for a bottle of water at the convenience store? Jesus Christ, give me a break. You know what I mean? Water rationing all the time, year after year after year. They're trying to make it to where water is the next oil. Don't let it happen, because it's not the case. We have plenty of water, and we always will.
Okay, now I want to get to another aspect of the whole aluminum oxide and the whole the funkability and the funkapotamus that's in this chemtrail stuff
Right.
and how it's affecting us. Now, many individuals may be aware of the fact that we're on the brink of a transition and that we're going to be right at the brink of an opportunity to take in all kinds of new things, and that we're right on the cusp of what would be considered a golden age for all intents and purposes. And that there are those that have a distinct end in mind that they want to prevent that from happening. They want to maintain their current seat of power, and so they're doing everything in their potential and everything in their power to not let that happen. They're trying to hold it back with a lot of force. And this is our birthright. This is something that's coming now that we have an opportunity to take advantage of, and we can take advantage of if we are willing and what have you. And so the chemtrail activity with this aluminum oxide particles and what have you, basically our ability to have a free expression of thought, because again, we're electromagnetic beings. And so for us to have any kind of a telepathic rapport or any kind of a psychic rapport or any of these things that in the future will be more commonplace as we grow and evolve as a race, that these things will have opportunity to take advantage of are being minimized and diminished by these effects of these chemtrails. So what could be speeding along as this, again, this flowering forth of this fuller understanding is being held in check and diminished by these kind of programs. And the longer they keep this stuff up, the more it's going to prevent us from having this fuller expression. So I think if we can concentrate on, again, diminishing with our own thoughts, diminishing the effects consciously of these chemtrails, by virtue of the chembusters and just our general thought, just getting the public thinking on the same page on this thing, we can alter and affect a lot of great change and again get us back on the right track, that we can take advantage of this energy, this influx, this Aquarian energy that's coming in all around us and take charge with it fully, because it's our birthright and we're being held back. So again, we need to do what we can to diminish these ill effects that are preventing our moving forward.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too off the topic here, but just like what Corey was saying about being held back, if you think this, I mean, what we're talking about now, chemtrails, that's being held back on a small scale. You know, you can do things about chemtrails. Mandatory smallpox vaccinations, you can't do anything about. If the chemtrails is just barely holding back from your birthright, the vaccinations will destroy it, because you can rest assured that they have been genetically modified to shut down any spiritual awakening that you might be going to have.
That's a good point too, because those that wish to enslave us are that far ahead of the curve that they are understanding of the genetic changes that are taking place, the DNA shifts and mutations, and so they are already engineering and constructing the types of vaccines that are going to prevent, again, our ability, quite frankly, to take literally into our systems light and to be more light and light beings, as New Agey as that may sound. Nonetheless, this is what's in store for us, and there's a lot of what's going on is to prevent that transition, that unfolding. Like you said, it's multilateral, and there are various levels of it that prevent us from having that. It's with the diet, with the food, with the microwave ovens, the cell phone towers, the cell phones themselves, just the whole fear tactics that you see through the media. All of this conditioning that takes place on this vast scale is really largely to hold us back, to keep us as a slave class, but to prevent a larger flowering forth of enlightenment and understanding that we have access to. Again, due to this Aquarian impulse that's coming into play, we can take charge of this and we can move forward. But we have to unitedly, collectively say, hey, we want to take advantage of this energy and we don't want anybody holding it back. We want to move forward. So you guys step back, quit preventing us from trying to accomplish what we want to accomplish, and we're going to move right ahead in spite of your best efforts to sway or diminish what we've got going on here, because the expression of the good, the true, and the beautiful is what a lot of people, I feel, want to emphasize now. And as long as you're holding that in check and stifling that creative expression, it's going to have to burst forth eventually. And it's, you know, whether it's the dam bursting and it's going to be an explosive rupture, or whether it's going to gradually precipitate down as a consciousness change in a better way, you know, it remains to be seen. But you know, I think that we can affect change, quite frankly, and that's part and parcel of this work that I'm describing today, that we can play our part in if we're so willing to do this. Is there anything you want to add before we start grabbing some calls?
No, not at all, man. I just want to agree wholeheartedly. You know, if I didn't think that we could change anything, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here tonight. I wouldn't be here every Tuesday night. I wouldn't be here for the past 5 years. I would just drink another beer, smoke another bowl, go to another club, whatever. You know what I mean? Because I don't care. But I do care, and that's why I'm here. That's why I've been here for 5 years, and that's why I will be here. I know I say this a lot on my show all the time. You know, my show is just for me, and it's true. But I care about the things that I talk about, though. And even though it is just for me, fortunately, you know, it seems to benefit others.
It definitely does. It definitely helps other people. So we definitely, I think, need to be on the same page with that. Get people interested, like you say, and I don't know. I don't expect everybody to have an access show, but they can help in their own way.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
what are your own strong points? Emphasize those and get creative in your own way.
Hey, the best thing that you can do is talk to a neighbor. And you don't get all crazy about it. You don't have to convince people of anything. Because remember, you don't want to put yourself in the role of dictator. If you think that they're out there trying to control us, the worst thing that you can do is try to go out there and control your neighbor or your friend who doesn't want to believe any of this. You can't force your beliefs on anybody else. You just have to show them what you think or what you believe in, and if they're interested and if they see the same things that you do, well, then y'all make a connection and y'all have something to grow or build on from there.
Yeah, it's kind of the please consider this attitude.
Exactly.
Please consider this information and, you know, make of it what you will. So if you want to go ahead and man
Sure.
that box.
Line 1, you're on the air tonight.
Hey, Jeff and Corey. I was wondering, is there any way you guys would ever think about doing divination or metaphysical study groups besides on Wednesday? I mean, I really wanted to. We've been wanting to attend one for months. I mean, I've been big fans of your shows. I watch you guys all the time. But, you know, you guys come on when Alex Jones is live, and, you know, I really don't want to miss Alex Jones, just like I don't want to miss your shows.
I don't either.
I tell you what, you know, Alex Jones and the whole crew, they show up there after the show. You know, we're there until 11, sometimes. I mean, Shaggy is there until 2 every time.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
so
true.
we're there, and, you know, Alex isn't live every week, and yeah, I know it's just the third and fourth Wednesdays, but come out there once. You know what I mean? Just come out once.
Tape the show.
You know,
come
yeah, you
out
can
and-
tape the show. Everybody has a VCR these days. It's fun just to get out of the house, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like Jeff said, I mean, it's not an every time thing that those guys are always there. But by and large, there's a darn good chance you're going to see a Mike Hansen. You're going to see some of those
Well, what I mean is
usual
that
suspects.
there's enough time after their show to still come down to the study group.
Oh,
unless,
that's
I
right.
mean,
That's right.
unless
Yeah,
you
we
live
have
out
to
in
be there at
Lakeway
8
or something
o'clock
like
because,
that.
you know, that's our thing. But you can come up there whenever. You can show up at 9 o'clock, 9:30, and there'll be plenty of time for you to interact and throw your 2 cents worth in and any of those days, either day. You're welcome
Definitely.
to show up at 9:30 or whatever because there'll be people still there and the evening will still be young at that point in time, trust me. Is there anything else you care to add?
No, not for now. I just wanted to thank you guys, and I appreciate everything that you're trying to do for Austin and, you know, as you say, for yourselves. And just I want to say thanks.
Hey, thanks for watching.
Okay, I would say if you're going to offer some thanks, do something in your own life. Offer up your own creative expression to help add to what we're doing here. Whatever is your strong point. Everybody has something they can do.
Cool. Hey, did you see that? I hung up on the first guy on Tuesday, but it wasn't my. He actually he hung up. I swear.
Were you beaming that to me? Were you telling me that? Because I was like,
because I knew you were going to tell me
yes,
you hung up on the
yes,
first guy again,
yes,
but I
yes.
didn't. He had hung up. Line 2, you're on the air.
I sure enjoy hanging out with y'all guys.
Hey, Mike. I'm sure I love having you down there, and I appreciate everything that you have done, man.
That's true.
I'm not calling about myself. I'm calling about a call that's been made for some court watchers tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the federal courthouse on 8th Street at Sam Sparks courtroom.
At 2 o'clock?
2 o'clock, they're needing all the court watchers they can get down there tomorrow. Even if 5 or 6 people show up, you know that these judges act totally different when there's people sitting in the courtroom looking
Definitely.
at how they're acting.
Hey, Mike, thanks for letting us know. I'll
Right.
definitely try to be there.
But say that again.
2 o'clock, the federal courthouse, which is about 2 blocks west of Congress.
Uh-huh.
There's Desi Andrews' son,
Rhett.
Rhett is on trial, and they have threatened his life, the U.S. Marshals. And there definitely needs to be people there to watch these people.
Hey, Mike, thank you so much for letting us know. I'll do my best to try to be down there tomorrow.
All right, God bless you.
God bless
Take
you
care.
too, Mike.
Yeah, I happened to see Mike on Fox News.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was on News 8 Austin not that long ago, Fox News. Mike, I really think you're getting more done being unelected than perhaps if you were elected in some ways, because you are everywhere. You're all over the place, brother, and I really do thank you for your sacrifice as well. You're a great guy. Thanks, Mike,
Yeah,
for all of your
definitely.
hard
I
work.
tell you, Mike Hansen, he produced the Jeff Davis show for years, and then he started producing Alex's show. And really, quite frankly, it's because of Mike Hansen that, he was one of the catalysts that helped start making Access a station where people are doing things, not just talking about something, not just playing tapes, but are actually doing something, are taking control of their community at least trying to. And
big time, big
you will
time.
always be my hero, Mike. Line 3, you're on the air.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Last week I went out the back door to see about 14 or 15 strips across the sky.
What area are you in?
South Austin.
Yeah.
South Austin, and it was just pretty evident. I was just curious, with all the everything seems to be heating up recently with the war drums beating and the propaganda flying. Do you think that these chemtrails are in some correlation with keeping the masses submissive or putting them in some sort of conscious state where, they don't care if we go bomb the hell out of Iraq
I definitely feel that way. I definitely feel like it's just like the fluoride. It pacifies us to a certain degree. It kind of dulls our senses a little bit.
Weakens our immune system to
All
where,
those things,
to where
exactly.
your body is weak, and that in turn weakens your mind.
Right.
If your mind is having to spend excess energy trying to make sure that your body is functioning properly, then you're not on top of your game.
Your critical thinking skills are going to suffer as a result
Exactly.
because you're trying to emphasize your energies on trying to get your body back to health.
Sure.
And
My mom's a school nurse at one of the local high schools here, and I'm just kind of getting her awakened.
let me ask you this: have they asked her to take a smallpox vaccine?
I believe she would have mentioned it, but I don't.
And because
know.
they're trying to get the healthcare workers, beforehand.
Sure. Yeah, and I've seen, in the mainstream media that a lot of hospitals are rejecting that.
Definitely.
That's
great.
true too. That's true too. The more informed decision makers are, being able to say, "Hey, no, we don't want it. We know what's in it, and we know it's not a good thing." So,
Well, you see,
thanks, but no thanks.
I hear one of their big problems now, the hospitals, is that since in the Homeland Security bill they put a limit on how much you could sue, or even sometimes saying you can't even
no, you
sue
can't
the drug
sue.
companies
There's no
if you
liability.
get sick. Well, that puts the liability on the employer then. If your employer is forcing you to take these vaccinations and you can't sue the pharmaceutical company, well, then you're going to sue the employer if you get sick. And so now all these hospitals are starting to rethink that and going, wait a second, we don't want to be liable.
And why is there blanket immunity for the pharmaceutical companies within the Homeland Security
Yeah,
legislation?
Dick Army, why is there immunity, huh? Lousy bastard.
Army.
Dick Army, that's right. Representative from the state of Texas put that in there, and he said he was proud of it.
Not to get too far off the subject, but how does one claim themselves exempt from these vaccinations? Can you claim it for religious reasons? Or
I hear
a
if
friend
you
that
have-
works in the medical profession that said he has some sort of scalp.
I hear if you have eczema, that's enough. If you have a pre-existing medical condition, that will almost guarantee that you can get an exemption.
All right, to my main question, I was a little skeptical at first of colloidal silver, and then I've come to see the benefits of that. This Orgone generator, is there any method of testing its output or any?
As a matter of fact, there is, and you can modify a Geiger counter, normal Geiger counter that detects radiation, and you can modify it. The instructions are out on the internet, and Wilhem Reich wrote a book about it and gave detailed instructions on how to do it. And with that, you can measure the output, either positive or negative, of any Orgone device.
Also, too, if you're interested in the Carillion so-called photography or the aura photography, I don't know that have we done this yet, or with taking the photograph of it?
No, what happened was we couldn't get that equipment, and we're looking for some other ones right now.
Okay, but if you were to take a Carillion photograph of the the chembuster, you would see there would be a definite field that would be discernible generated by the chembuster that's circulating through it. And also, if you stand close to it, I know this is a bit, subjective as to whether you can say you sense it or feel it or what have you, but if I get within 6 feet of it, I tend to feel a vibe, an emanation, like an electrical charge, so to speak.
Fascinating. Well, lastly, it burns when I pee. Would it help?
That was pretty funny, actually. Line 1, you're on the air.
He needs colloidal silver, doesn't he? Doesn't he
I
give her that
think
kind
so.
of funkopotamus?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
I was saying, how y'all doing, Corey and Jeff?
Good.
Very good.
Good. Hey, I was wondering, what time do y'all, or where do y'all hang out over there at Opal Divine?
It's the third Wednesday of the month at 8 o'clock. We have the metaphysical study group, and that's
Where is it? Where are y'all?
the upstairs portion
Yeah,
of it. If you just go
upstairs.
all the way to the top area, there's a little designated room that we always end up in, or sometimes it migrates during the day or whatever, or the evening. But we try to start off there, and then it just goes from there. Like I said, usually until the early AM.
Yeah, we're almost always upstairs though.
Yeah, because I went yesterday, but I guess I missed y'all.
Oh, really? Yesterday we were in the bar area, actually, the upstairs bar area.
I might have just walked right by y'all then.
That's
You might
very
have.
possible.
You might have. We were all in there.
Yeah, we
though.
try to keep it consistent.
Was there like a whole bunch of people with laptops in there?
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a bunch of people. I know that y'all always say just join a table, but
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want to go over with somebody that's trying to have lunch or something. And they're like, well, who's this guy? Yeah, but all right, I guess I'll try and catch you next time.
Hey,
Please
thanks a
do.
lot. I
Please
appreciate
do.
you watching.
All right, see y'all later.
Take care.
Line 2, you're on the air.
Hey guys, Ron Anderson, how you doing?
Hey,
Good,
what's
Ron.
up,
How's it
brother? Good
going?
to hear from
You
you.
know what? I've missed the study group for the last couple of times, but it is a wonderful thing for all the viewers out there. It
Hey, thanks.
is such a great opportunity to get together and share a lot of positive Orgone energy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an excellent opportunity to get a charge on your batteries.
Yeah.
Oh, big time.
I mean, and it's fun just to hang out with people that you don't have to explain yourself to,
Exactly. You
Yeah,
don't have
that's
to.
true.
What I do for a living, I go out every day and I point this stuff out to people, and they're like, "Huh?" And I have fun doing that. I call it setting off truth bombs.
Right.
Whatever. Look, I had a quick comment and a question for Jeff. The comment is that Binky, my wife, and I, we both kind of notice that on days of chemtrail spraying, and especially heavy, we get this just kind of weird feeling in our head. She gets headaches, and I just get this real dizzy kind of feeling. And I'm out in it every day.
Right.
So, but it's just, this infamous day that everyone's talking about, George Humphrey, Common Sense, Texas Frontline, all these guys are talking about, that about a week ago, just drove me nuts almost. It's like I wanted to go do a signs, put on tinfoil on my head. God, what is going on here?
I tell you what.
For people who have not studied HAARP, and Corey, you said at the beginning of the program, this isn't Chemtrails 101. This is advanced theory.
Right, definitely.
If you don't know HAARP, then you don't understand. These people right now are capable of creating holographic Jesus over a city after they've gassed them with Russian theater nerve gas to give them all these LSD hallucinations.
Right.
This is not science fiction. It's reality.
Yeah.
We can do this.
And it doesn't have to be the rapture either. It could be beneficial aliens coming down to save you from Planet X that's about to destroy the world.
Who knows? They can do whatever they want because they control it all. So
Exactly.
Well,
and especially if they have a database on what your likes and dislikes and your orientations are and what you
Let me
believe.
tell you this about databases. I am on a search for my daughter, my ex-wife. Left a long time ago, and I won't get into that. But anyway, we were pulling up some information, and just for a $10 search on the internet, I can get everybody searching for my ex-wife, her Social Security number. Everyone in my family, all of their spouses, ex-spouses, brothers, sisters, showed up on this search. I have information on everybody, and now John Poindexter has got access to all that. People just don't understand what the intrusiveness is. Anyway, I'm way off the subject.
Hey,
Jeff,
don't worry
anyway,
about
my
it.
question was, I want to build a chembuster, and I can, front the. Yeah,
I tell you
I've
what,
got the money to do it, so.
email me at therefore I
We're
am.
trying to. Is your website down?
My website's down. It'll be back up in the next day or two. I've
right,
already made the call this
That's why I
time.
called.
As a matter of fact,
I've heard that before,
I
man.
didn't check it before I came to the show.
I caught you, dog.
Somebody check it. It could be up right now at this very moment.
There's a lot of things that could be going on at this very moment.
God bless. Keep up the good work.
Hey,
Thank you so much. Oh, did she? Good.
hey, and good luck on your search, by the way, Ron.
I appreciate
wish
that.
you a lot of luck on your search.
No
with
doubt.
That, definitely.
And I tell you what, Ron, on the heavy activity days when there's so many chemtrails and you have to be outside and you are breathing that stuff in constantly, if the 3 things that I take, colloidal silver, of course, it's the best preventative out there. MSM, if you've already got it in your system and you want your cells to help extract toxins better, you need sulfur in your diet, and MSM is the best, cheapest way to get it. It's just a cheap supplement. You take it, and really, I mean, it'll clear your sinuses, help. Wonderful stuff. I can't say enough. And olive leaf extract. If
been
you
really on
are
that one lately.
sick, those 3 things, what's the deal?
It's there, but we have to reload all the pages.
What?
The pages are there.
None of the pages are there? The website is up, though, but none of the pages are there. So,
But
see,
technically
it's
it's
up.
up, all
I'll be
right.
working on it in the next couple days.
Yeah, we'll get it.
Line 1, you're on the air.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say that I think that guy wishes he were an alien because he smoked too much of that lithium gas.
That was almost going somewhere, I think, but I'm not sure. Line 3, you're on the air.
You were on the air. Thank
See,
you
I
for
didn't do
taking
that,
the time.
though.
No,
See,
that
I
wasn't
didn't
you.
do
That wasn't you.
All right, if you want to call in to shows, 477-2288. We only got about 8 minutes left, so maybe we can take in about 5 calls. But,
Okay, this is what I want to talk about also as well. This is the last thing too. Chris Athanas' theory on the whole chembuster thing is that this whole transition I spoke of earlier, the 2012 related transition, this ability for us to have this new influx of understanding and light and this golden age dawning on us and all this good stuff that we have the opportunity for, Chris Athanas is of the mind, that I spoke of with him on this recently, that this chemtrail stuff is actually a buffer that is allowing the people to have a gradual transition as opposed to a rough transition. With all of this influx of light, so-called, that it's really overwhelming some people, he feels, and I can understand that, but that this chemtrail is a knowing buffer. It's set in place partially to buffer this influx of light so that the people aren't overwhelmed again by this transition period. And that might have some validity, and I think that's nice of Chris to at least try to paint it in a good light to a certain degree, like a lot of people are. But I don't know, I just...
I tell you what, none of the divinations I've done seem to indicate that. But
I just thought I'd throw his hypotheses out there
who
because,
knows? You know what? If I could, I'd like to believe that, you know what I mean?
Right, you want to believe.
The optimist in me would like to believe that.
Or it's an inoculation or something like that.
But the realist in me realizes that, hey, that's just not the way.
Okay.
Line 2, you're on the air.
Yeah, how's it going, guys?
Not
Good.
too bad.
Hey, I had a friend of mine, or actually I just met her, and she got me going through this thing called soul pulling. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
It's something where it takes 3 people. One person stands in the middle and 2 people on the outsides, and they stand a certain way with their feet, and then they grab their wrist, and then they say, pull that soul, and the person falls backwards, and they feel better after that.
I think I've seen that demonstrated on an Access show or something very similar to that by this woman
I thought
there.
maybe you might have some information on that.
No, I hadn't heard of it, but I will look into it in the next couple of days.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for the tip.
Thank you.
What did you hear about it?
I just saw something on
I
Access.
mean, is it like a healing thing, or?
This woman had an Access show, or I've seen it several times actually. I think my producer has seen it as well, where this woman, she has what she calls the arcane healing techniques, and I don't think it's based
So
on
it's like spiritual healing.
anything
then.
particular, but yeah, but it's just energy exchange, and visualization, and actually hands-on, and like the guy said, there was a little exercise they were doing where they had a person in the center, and they were doing some kind of energy body work with the person.
Cool. Line 3, you're on the air.
Yes, hi. I just happened to come across y'all's show tonight, and I'm very intrigued. I've actually noticed the chemtrails in the sky for quite a while.
Right.
Over my house, I've noticed big, what look like crosses almost, just perfect crosses in the sky, and I've noticed the temperature changes and the weather changes, and, I've lived in Austin for about 12 years, and things, have been pretty crazy lately, and I've never just really put it all together until I saw your show tonight, and I just want to know what I can do to help battle this.
Well, I tell you, the best thing that you can do is learn more about it. I mean, until you can get to a level where you can talk about it with confidence and you can educate others about it, then really you need to get to that level, because until then you're no good to us. I mean, you're good because you watch, and you're good because you might do all these other things, but if you want to help in this arena, you need to make yourself more knowledgeable, Okay. And the easiest way to do that is the internet, wouldn't you say?
That is helpful if you have internet. I don't have a computer, so I don't have very much internet access. But I would say, I would have to just, what you said about that. Yes, you are being helpful. You're watching the show, you're concerned, you're calling, you're asking what you can do. That's very important as a beginning. You have the will, and that first and foremost is a start. Educating is very important as well, but consider what your strengths are as far as, are you a good speaker, are you an artist, or what are your strengths and your qualities, and what can you do with your own God-given ability to somehow inform people, help people, or bring your own energy to this whole exchange. Because this whole Access community, if you bother to take the time to watch these other Access shows and what have you, there is a very genuine sense of community, and there's a large exchange of energy and practical work that takes place as a result of us trying to be grassroots and to try to affect change here locally in Austin by just getting our voices heard and speaking publicly.
That's right. Well, thank you very much. I'll definitely do some research and look more into this.
Hey, thank you
And
very
also
much.
the meetings, too, if you're interested in the meetings that we hold the third Wednesday of every month.
Not just our meetings, but anybody's meetings.
Yes, there are a lot of meetings.
I mean,
That's true.
If you are not a part of some kind of group, well, join a group. God, there has to be something that you're interested in. Join a group. Put your energy into that group, and you will get back someone else's energy, and that keeps the flow going. And when you do that, you learn more about them, about what they think and what they believe, and they learn more about what you think and what you believe, and that's how these ideas get talked about. It's when people stay at home in front of the television and don't do anything but wonder why that nothing ever gets done.
True, true, true. Yeah. But you can help if you want to.
We got about 2 minutes left. Maybe we can squeeze in a few calls. Line 1, you're on the air.
Turbo call.
Rock.
Thanks.
Way to go, good show.
Thanks for watching.
Quick comment or question?
Hey, I just got to say, colloidal silver definitely works.
Hey, thanks for your comment. Appreciate it. Line 2, you're on the air.
Hey, it's Arthur. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you,
I
Arthur?
wanted to make 2 quick comments. I did see that the soul thing too on Access.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to say, I miss Chris Athanas. Come back.
We miss a guy too.
He had a lot of, y'all give a lot of spiritual stuff. Jeff gives some of the technical stuff, but he was, he was right there at the end when he stopped. He was giving a lot of shows that were different. The dental stuff, all that type of stuff.
Chris will be back, definitely. I look for Chris to be around after NAB, probably.
And he has an open invitation to come on my show anytime. If he were to walk up right now, I would hook up a mic to him and put him on camera right
I can tell you what, as much as you miss watching Chris, he misses being down here doing the show.
Big time.
Line 3, you're on the air.
The Orgone thing is pretty harmless, but you guys need to be real careful with colloidal silver because it causes a condition that turns the skin green.
Actually, it's blue, sir. It's called argyria. And you have to take so much colloidal silver that you could never ingest that much in order to turn your skin blue.
Well, the people that it's happened to...
Yeah, Rosemary Jacobs is not a credible woman. She's not credible.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, she is the famous gray lady who talks about colloidal silver. I mean, she's gray, without a doubt. She's gray, and I mean...
Okay, hey, we got to wrap it up. We got a few seconds left. But thanks again, Jeff. Thanks to my producer, Chris, and Christy for commanding the helm of the Starship Esoterica.
Chris and Christy, that's weird, huh? They're both back there tonight.
I don't know what to say.
That's cool.
It worked out. And, watch Therefore I Am, Tuesdays at 10 on Channel 10. We won't be live next week. We have a tape show, but thanks, Austin, for all of your time. Steve Basher, where are you? We did not have a complete show because FBU, please, where are you? We're dying down here.
Hey, thanks, Corey, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Also here, the patriotic wizard, my little wizard here. He has a flag and he has a heart of gold. So
See you.
Good night.